let's see neutral site games.
So the Big 12 is in New York City today. Bob Huggins, Scott Drew, among others, are there. Brett Yormark and Bob Burda, the Vice President of Communications for the Big 12, joins us from New York City, a part of that as well, to make sure everybody is where they need to be, including himself. And he joins us on 365 Sports with Paul Craig, and I'm David Smoak. Bob, thanks for your time. Your thoughts, I know that there's probably still much more to do, but your thoughts about what has been the reaction and the fact the Big 12's up in New York trying to get some business and eyeballs there.
David, first of all, welcome. Appreciate the opportunity. The reaction's been very positive, just as we had hoped. It fits into Commissioner Yormark's new narrative about the Big 12, and we got to do a better job of storytelling. We need to contemporize the brand. We need to associate more with culture, and what better place to start telling our story than in the media capital of the world. And with the two coaches and the commissioner, through the course of the day, each of them have met with at least 15 different media outlets. We've been bouncing around the city. We're also headquartered at a PR agency where they've had people coming over here as well. So it's really been everything that we've hoped it would be. And more importantly, David, we've laid a foundation that I think we're going to build off of in the future and look to be able to do more of these type of events here in New York and possibly other cities around the country as well.
What do you think has been the thing that you are missing compared to, especially, I'll just use the Big Ten as an example, Bob. Their record when it comes to the postseason outside of Ohio State isn't very much different than the Big 12's at all, but for some reason everybody kind of believes that brand is better because they've sold it better. You guys have a lot of facts on your side that you haven't been able to maybe burst through the top.
Well, you look at just the dominance of the league in men's basketball. We've had teams in the last 4 Final Fours. We've won the last 2 national championships. We've had teams in the last 3 national championship title games. And, to show the depth of the league, it hasn't been the same teams year in and year out. It's been different teams. It just shows you how deep and how balanced this league is. Now, I think to your earlier point about just the perception, the truth of the matter is football is reality. And we have not had a team in the college football playoff. We haven't had a team play for the CFP National Championship. And that's really the missing piece right now in our resume. And really believe we're going to get there, hopefully sooner rather than later. But we've got a great league, as you know, and we've got parity, we've got balance. I mean, look this past weekend of the 4 games that took place, 3 of them involved teams that were ranked in the top 25. And we've got another matchup this weekend of undefeated teams playing one another in a high-profile football game.
Bob, what's it been like? I guess it's now closing in on about 4 months that Commissioner Yormark has been on the job. Obviously, his energy is a bit infectious. I think we felt that during Big 12 media days. But just what's kind of been your thoughts on seeing how these first 4 months have unfolded with the new leadership?
Well, you touched on it. A real high-energy guy. He brings a business mindset to college athletics that is unique to the space and is really challenging the team and those around him to begin to think differently. And he's a high-touch person. He wants to know what's going on. He wants to be aware of what's happening, what the landscape looks like. And it's just a different vibe around the office, a different vibe in our meetings. There's an energy when we're with our athletic directors and with our university presidents. And there's just great buy-in to where we're going and what the potential looks like down the road.
When Brett Yormark's name was out the first time, even before it became official, one of the conversations we had, Bob, was what does he know about Ames, Iowa, or Waco, Texas, or Lubbock, Texas, or Manhattan, Kansas, et cetera? And he made that tour, plus what he did when he arrived for Big 12 media days. What does New York City actually know about the Big 12? That you mentioned basketball and what they've done. It's a basketball-crazy city, and the Barclays Center's there, so who knows? Maybe one day they're a part of this. But what did you find out maybe they know that you didn't know?
Well, Brett has a lot of contacts here in the city, given the profile that he had here with the Brooklyn organization and his wife's restaurant. So, in fact, we went and presented a University of Kansas jersey to the mayor yesterday because the New York City mayor, Eric Adams, had made an offhanded remark recently and that said something to the effect that Kansas isn't a brand. I don't know specifically what he was referring to when he made that comment. But when we were in Lawrence last week for the TCU-KU game, the Kansas Athletic Director, Travis Goff, gave us a football jersey. We said we'd like to go and present it to the mayor. Brett called the mayor directly and said, hey, I'm going to come see you while we're in New York. Mayor said, come on by. Here's what we're going to do. So we went to City Hall yesterday, presented him with the jersey, posted it on social media, and it was a very favorable reaction, particularly for those fans of the state of Kansas.
Bob Burda, Vice President of Communications with the Big 12 Conference. There is a contingent in New York City right now, and we appreciate Bob's time on 365 Sports.
Bob, have the last 2 years kind of helped your messaging a little bit in that the two teams that are leaving the conference are not necessarily dominating the conversation, and you had Baylor and Oklahoma State in the championship game last year. Kansas has come out of nowhere to be maybe the best story in college football. TCU has bounced back in the first year of a coaching change. There's a lot of cool things going on with the brands that will be in the league whenever the transition does happen.
Well, winning is the best elixir there is. And we can come up with message points, talk about the strength, stability, and success. But if your teams aren't out there competing at a high level and winning games on a regular basis, it really falls on deaf ears. And we've been fortunate in that we've had teams that have stepped up and have been carrying the water for the league. You look at our football championship game last year with Baylor and Oklahoma State playing in a sold-out AT&T Stadium. This year with what Kansas has done, TCU undefeated, Oklahoma State undefeated. So we've got teams that are stepping up and playing at a high level at just the right time for us as we start this narrative about the new Big 12 and what the future is going to look like for us.
So the only thing else we need from you, Bob, is what is it like now with that TV deal down the road? I mean, right? You ready to unleash that on us with a press release on the air?
well, you may have seen that it was announced that we were going to explore with our television partners the appetite to enter into negotiations early. Contractually, that window begins in February of 2024, so 16 months away. But they've been encouraging conversations. We'll see where it goes, but we're in a good place. So it's not like we have to get something done now because we know we have the opportunity down the road, but it was more just to see if it was mutually beneficial for all parties and if there was interest. So those conversations are ongoing, and we'll see where they ultimately lead.
You, of course, were there with Bob Bowlesby for the years that he was a part of it, and also a part of the fall of last year when things got a little bit rocky and they found those four to come in to strengthen it. Maybe not as good as the Texas OU brand, but at least strengthen it and give it something going forward. What about Brett Yormark have you learned that you didn't know?
Well, a lot, actually, because quite frankly, I didn't know anything about Brett Yormark before he came on board. Got the heads up a few days in advance that he was going to be named. So started preparing for the introductory press conference, learning a little bit about him. Heard he was a high energy guy, but until you meet him and you feel that energy and feel how infectious it is, it's just a different vibe. And we're heading in the right direction. We're on an upward trajectory. And again, there's just great buy-in from our administrators, the university presidents, to the athletics directors, to the coaches on down. And it just really feels like a good time to be a part of the Big 12.
Bob, when will we get a schedule release for 2023?
Historically, that schedule has been released November, December the year prior. So we're still targeting that timeline. Obviously, it's a little bit different this go around because we'll have to be a 14-team league next year. So there are some nuances that we still have to play through. But we're on target to be in position, we think, to release the schedule sometime in November, possibly as late as December.
Bob, thanks for your time. We know you're busy. Appreciate it, and we'll see you down the road. Thank you.
All right. Appreciate it, guys. Have
Bob,
a good day.
Yes, sir. Bob Burda in New York City. Scott Drew, Bob Huggins. It made me